This is still Signature Morning, and you're on Signature TV. I will always like to remind us, don't forget to follow us on all our social media handles at Signature TV Officials on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And on YouTube, we are at Signature TV. Just go subscribe and leave it there. You know why? Because we are on 24 hours. Moving on with the show, we've been talking about protests. The country has recently, since the 1st of August, there has been this protest, Day of Rage, as was called. And, we've been having different versions of it. So many people have misused it. Some have tried to handle it in their own minute way or big way. It doesn't matter how we've been doing it. What matters is that we achieve one result. And at the end of the day, that we are united in love. I always like to use that word love because that's what conquers all. And moving on, talking about protests, the manner of managing protests in Nigeria. Different countries might have the way they successfully manage theirs, like the one that ensued in Venezuela and Kenya, But case in point for us is Nigeria, the manner of managing protests in Nigeria. And we have a guest in the studio to discuss this with us. Is Obiora Nemeka. He is executive chairman, Sonafem Agency, an agency that is into safeguard, man guard, if you please, and security. You're welcome, Mister.
Thank you.
I hope it wasn't difficult getting here.
It is.
Well, you're in Nigeria, I think.
We are used to it.
Okay, so.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good morning.
The manner of managing protests in Nigeria. Can you give us a historical overview of protests in Nigeria, discussing significant protests in Nigeria history, such as the June 12th of 1993, the June 12th protest. There was also the Niger Delta protest, the results, and the recent NSAS, #NSAS movement that took place in 2020. So how would you describe the manner Nigerians and Nigerian government manage protest? Obiora Nemeka.
Yeah, okay. If, like you mentioned, all the protests that has happened so far always turned out to end with violence and looting. And I'm sure it's not the intents of the organizers of the protest, but I think we have a history of the goals of the protest.
No, was it all protests that ended in violence? I don't think so.
Life gets to
1993,
the June 12th protest.
Yeah.
It was violent. Then the NSAS protest, that's the major ones. So at a point,
we had Occupy Nigeria at some point.
We have Occupied Nigerian protests that I think it was in 2013, 2012. So they all ended up with one or two persons losing their lives. And it has kind of been a form of signature to the protest in Nigerian space. It's a problem of both the organizers and the security apparatus managing that protest, because there seems to be anxiety as the protest is going on, and one or two parties get to lose it and engage in violence. Then the participant of the protest get diluted along the line with people of other interests joining the protest.
Okay, you said when you said that protest always has a way it ends into violence, But one would say there is a saying that people don't start fighting and say, "We'll do this fight, but you must not bite me." In some language it's called as a anuaro or something like that. So it means as people are fighting, is it about, we're going to get to what you're saying, but is it not letting protests happen, the agitations of people, not letting it occur, or trying to manage it well?
Is trying to manage it well.
Okay.
Yeah. But trying to not let the protest occur adds fuel to the fire. Because people are already at grievance.
No, I mean, whatever it is that will make the protest come to their mind, you know, if people are saying there is bad governance, why not end bad governance so that it doesn't even occur?
Yes. The protest is about setting demands.
Yes.
And the intent of the protest is to get as much as their demands met. Yeah. So, for instance, the issue of bad governance has been with us for a while. And the protests, the aim is to end bad governance. And in ending it, we want to see the government take the first steps towards things that will discourage bad governance. Okay? Like the government spending is one thing they are protesting for. So what is the government doing to be able to show that in the next 3 months we are cutting our spending by X percentage? So this is what the protest is actually looking at and demanding. And the protest could also be averted if the government takes steps before the protest, because there is protest planning. There is protest planning, and during the planning stage, the intentions for the protest is made public for the government to also scrutinize and know what the protest is all about. So if all those things have been in the public space and we really want to avert the process, effort should have been made before the protest to start addressing those demands.
Okay. Now, talking about the response of government, Nigerian government in particular, to protest, I would need your reaction on it. What do you think about Nigerian government reaction to protest?
Up until recently, it has been a fire brigade response. What I mean by fire brigade is they are responding to the issues as the issues are coming. There hasn't been any proper planning, putting measures in place to limit the protest to a certain area. So what we get to see is the protest escalating to other areas not mapped out for the protest to occur.
Okay, I mean, there are several people who have spoken about this protest, and I just wanted to find out from you, protest is so peculiar to Nigeria.
No, it's not.
There's protests currently going on even in the United Kingdom. At some point also we had protests in the USA, Venezuela, you know, there are protests everywhere basically. But for Nigeria, why do you think it's different as it relates to other countries?
Okay. Every protest is localized with the what the people are not comfortable with, what the changes people want. So for UK, Venezuela, Kenya, and the rest of Bangladesh and the rest of the places where protest is going on, they have a particular set goals they want to achieve. So for Nigeria, we are protesting bad governance. We are protesting government, excessive government spending and other things. So this is what is peculiar to us. So protest gets to be generated based on the needs that are not in the society, the local society.
Local society.
Yeah. So that's basically.
There are some group of persons who have refused to protest. They didn't even come out at all. We know, at least you could mention 2 states from every region in Nigeria except one that came out to protest.
Yeah.
How do you think that happened? Does it mean that everything is cool
No,
down
everything.
southeast?
No, it's not cool. But you know, again, there is a history to where we are today, and that history is what has happened in the past protests. Did we get the kind of resolution or near goals of what was set out in those periods? And some of these states have learned to now look inwards and say, okay, we're actually being impacted by what is happening in Nigeria, and they start to work around it and try to move on. Then there's also the blame game before the protest and after the protest. So some states might say, okay, because of our tribe and whatever, and the blame game is towards a certain group. So the best thing is to stay away and observe from a distance.
When you say blame game, what exactly do you mean by blame game? Are you saying that the Southeast is not protest because they are scared that they will be blamed for the protest?
No, not exactly blamed for the protest, because the goals of the protest is affecting every Nigerian. So whether you are in Kaduna, Abuja, anywhere, we are all feeling the pressure of the rising cost, the pressure coming from hunger. We are all feeling it. But at the end of the day, the people who loses their properties more are a certain group in the country, and they try to minimize their casualties, because at the end of the day, nobody tends to also assist in recovery.
Wouldn't that be misconstrued as things are okay with you since you have not protested?
Once bitten, twice shy.
Which
It is a kind of approach that I'm vulnerable in this region. If this happens, I get to lose my livelihood, and the next time you support, but you will not be fully outward towards coming out to show your face and all those things.
Are we united in this protest? Because it does seem that we're not united in the protest, because you can tell that some states didn't come out at all. Kwara didn't come out. The entire southeastern region did not come out. Even though you can pick certain places, that came out for protest. Benue is quiet.
Okay.
But you can just speak Kano, Borno, you can also pick Lagos.
Ebonyi didn't come out at all. Okay, now,
Entire
are we
Southeast didn't come
united?
out. Yeah.
I think we are united.
In this protest?
Yes, I'm coming to that.
Okay.
Now, like I said earlier, the goals of the protest is affecting everybody. Now, first, maybe we have certain expectations for the protest, but sitting at home is also a form of protest.
Really?
And in all those regions where we just mentioned now, no shops opened. Markets didn't operate.
For fear of being attacked.
For
Not-
fear?
For fear of being attacked. Not that there is solidarity to the protest.
It can be a little bit of fear, but the major thing is we are all going to stay home because of protest, and protesters are going to get violent. So, like I said, is a history of protest in Nigeria that brought us to where we are. But one remarkable thing is, in all these places, even the private businesses that have a form of perimeter fencing to their business, they didn't open. So everybody protested.
Okay, talk about law enforcement
Yes.
agencies. Can you successfully analyze the role of law enforcement agencies in protest? Have they been doing it right? Have they been doing it the right way? Or are they just beating some drums that the citizens don't understand where they got their tunes from?
Yes and no. They have not been doing it right. And they are doing it right to the level of the capacity the law enforcement is exposed to. Now, there is this kind of judgmental approach we have. We import some standards from other places and place it on our law enforcement. Okay. First, do they have the relevant training to be able to manage protest? For me, I'm not sure. From my point of view, I'm not very sure they have the relevant training. Even if they do, the final deployment to areas of protest did not get all the trainings they need to manage and control crowds in protest.
So are you saying that our law enforcement are just filled with more occupied with amateurs, like people who do not know why they are there and the reason why what they're doing.
Our law enforcement space is wide. And in security, the trainings, there are so many types of trainings that security personnel get. Now, the prevalence of the highest crime in the society will direct the training the law enforcement people get more over the other. So protests, yes, we've had protests, but it's not a thing that is repeating at a frequency that they get those trainings. So basically what happens is before any training, they move personnel from all over the country to the flashpoints. So yes, have they done their work? They know the flashpoint, they did their work. Did they plan for it? Yes, they made plans to be able to have enough personnel to manage the training. But the quality of the personnel is what we are looking at. So to say, now, like this present training, there is enough public information that the protest will happen. Mm-hmm. How many of the officers actually had a retraining on crowd management and protest? I don't know, but it's a question that we may need to find an answer to. So these are the areas where the no part comes in.
Okay, so the appropriateness of their use of force, you know, the fact that you are supposed to be the one protecting me. And for whatever reason, for instance, a child is misbehaving. You give birth to a child and that child is misbehaving, and you tend to, because the child is misbehaving or doing what you don't like, will never make you to shoot the child or maim the child. So what informs that decision of the way and manner they apply force on citizens?
First of all, they are not supposed to be on protests with live ammunitions.
Okay.
They have other tools to be able to control crowd and manage violent protests. And the reason for the fact they are in the protest arena with live ammunition shows that enough planning didn't go into it.
So what's the legal implication?
It could be extrajudicial killing. Or obviously, government will set up a committee to look at why it happened and try to prevent it. So every committee will eventually come up with a response and a possible course of action.
All right. We've seen different dimensions of those protests. Yes, we've seen looting, but for the first time, I'm not sure I've ever, in monitoring protests, protesters wield international flags. Were you shocked when you saw that? What was your reaction?
Yeah, I was shocked, and my reaction is simple, that this protest is being sponsored.
By who now?
It may be too early to start saying that for there to be the flags of other countries available to protesters, those flags must have come from somewhere. Because typically Nigerians don't manufacture flags of other countries.
They said they actually
but
cut the tailor that made.
Yeah, but I wanted to say that there are sponsors. The government said they identified sponsors. We know that there's growing Russian influence in West Africa, given what has happened with the coup, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and the likes. Do you think that Russia has some influence in this? Because, you know, they've released a statement saying that they're not involved, they don't know what's going on with the wielding of their flag by the protesters. But do you in any way think that somebody may have had a hand in it, or it was just something that came out of the spur of the moment, just like we saw the president having almost the same color of flags while he was, you know, giving his speech on Sunday?
No, like let me just reiterate a bit of what I said earlier, that before any protest, there is a planning. And the availability of those flags there can go both ways, either to point fingers to somebody else while someone else is sponsoring the protest, or there might be the actual people sponsoring the protest. So eventually the government will form a committee to look into that. That's is a dangerous scenario for us, and the Mali protest, there's a lot of Russian flags in that protest too. Then secondly, Africa feels so much need to be emancipated, and Africans are looking at what is happening on the world stage. There are various opinions here and there, but most of African governments wants to be in control, both for their foreign policies and domestic policies. So that could also be a pointer to why people are looking towards the Northern Pole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, can you discuss the democratic practices and the civil liberties in Nigeria as regards the way and manner we manage protest?
Okay. Protest is a right enshrined in the constitutions for Nigerians to be able to air what they are disgruntled with. And the civil society approach to the protest is they do their own part of the work, and be able to figure out the areas where they need the masses to focus on. And for Nigeria today, we are looking at hunger as primary element that is affecting everybody. Loss in living standard value, and their role, they are playing it well, but how they go about it, it's acceptable as long as it gives the result that they intended to do for the common masses.
Okay, so back to this international influence, because you said that there's usually plannings that comes with these kinds of protests. This is a direct question. Do you think Russia is involved with what's going on with the flying of their flags?
I can't say exactly if they're involved or not, but from my experience and practice, I also understand that there is blame game going on, that during the stage of planning, people can say, okay, let's plan it this way so that fingers can be pointed at a particular person, and resentments will follow after that. There's also a possibility there might be. So a clear answer to that, I can't categorically say.
If you see the intensity of the protests so far, the North seem to be very, very active, even with the way they go about destroying things. In the South, it's a little bit mild. You know, you wouldn't see people destroying something or running or even driving a tank by the police. I mean, that was quite shocking. I think it's the first time I've seen that kind of thing.
Very bold.
That kind of thing you'll never see in the South.
In the South, yes.
But you see the intensity in the North. They go about destroying properties, destroying APC buildings, destroying government properties, and doing all sorts of things. Do you think the North is high with this intensity because of the person who is leading us? Because under the previous administration, we had similar issues: hunger, strife, starvation, increase in hunger, and all of those things. And then you didn't see, the North did not come out. Even when we had the end SARS campaign that happened in 2020. The North, in fact, Kano and Kaduna came out and said that they are in support of the police. That is anti-end SARS campaign, so to speak. That was everything that was so. But now, it's more like the tide has changed. Do you think that this is more political than just end bad governance protests?
I'll make a few points to that. First of all, everything is political. Everything is political. And I also like to toe the line that the North and South alternate politics based on who is leading. But it's important to note that the issues around why the protest is affecting every Nigerian. So because of that, a lot of regions, states, people look back to the past protests. What has happened? They try to avoid it happening to them again. But while the North is damaging property, which of course is wrong, that also happened in the South when the South was protesting. So people are more inclined to line behind who they identify with.
As a president.
As a president.
So that means that we're not unified, so-called.
There are many forms of unification. So this is just one out of the so many.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this is just one out of the so many.
I would say, can you explore strategies for managing protests peacefully and effectively? You know, beyond just trying to cocoon people into one place. You know, what are the strategies that we need to employ to manage protests peacefully and effectively?
Okay. The first strategy is continuous communication between the organizers of the protests and government agencies that is supposed to make sure that there is no breakdown of law and order. That channel has to be open and deepened. That will help. Then the second strategy is planning. So every stakeholder has to be part of planning towards a protest, both the law enforcement and the civil society organizing the protest. Once you leave out one group from the planning stage, that group will tend to get violence. Then, between the protesters and the organizers, intelligence gathering is important, both to the police and to the organizers. To this, I'll speak a little. It allows the organizers to know when their protest is being infiltrated by people who wants to hijack. So they can quickly call off the protest because it has been hijacked, or they make appropriate reports to the agency that CO, we are being infiltrated, so that the aim of the protest can also be achieved. So another one should be to give an education or sensitization to the groups protesting, and continuous retraining for the law enforcement towards managing rowdy crowd and violent crowd. And protests is something we can't rule off. So the particular protest tools required by law enforcement should also be provided. The right tools for the protest should be provided, like water cannon, stunt gun. They remove live bullets and use non-live bullets. So making sure those are there will help manage the protest very well, and also help them achieve a protest without loss of life.
Okay, are there some policy reforms? As in, can you suggest potential policy reforms to improve the management of protest? Because sometimes these things are, it's not something that can be done in isolation.
Overnight, yeah.
Yeah. So, can you suggest some policy reforms that could help in successfully managing protests?
Okay. Why suggest new policies when you have not deepened the old one?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Reforms.
Yeah.
It's
so
a tweak.
Just to get out there, like I know that every protest you have to sought permission to do that. And permission must be given if the law enforcement agrees that it's going to be a non-violent protest. You can go to court if they decline to have your way to protest. So we should continue to use that. And that capacity to decline should be broadened so that it wouldn't be a case of the person, the group you like, you give that permission to protest. Like I said, so far, the policy around protests in Nigeria is straightforward. And I think it should be tested more.
All right.
Yeah.
Again, you know, one of the ways to curb protest is not to protest at all, or curb the excesses of protest is not to protest at all, or maybe government does something to prevent the protests, so that it doesn't happen. Because every now and then when we see protests, it always ends up taking away lives and all of those things. Now, I wanted to ask you if it is ever possible for us to get to that point where we can prevent protests from happening, and how much of that can that ever happen?
Yes, it's possible to prevent protests from happening. Before we get to the stage of calling a protest, there is always signs. There's always policies, direction from the government that is not going down well with the populace. So, no matter behind every bad policy, there is a good intent. But the intent might come 5 years from today. And that discomfort for a period of 5 years.
Okay, period.
People will not wait for it.
Okay.
All right.
So there are other ways to
rub
around it and still achieve your 5-year goal while releasing the changes you want to make gradually, so that they can accommodate it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Obiora Nemeka. That was Mr. Obiora Nemeka, Executive Chairman of Sonafem Agencies Limited. They're into man guard and security issues and other things. And we've been trying to talk about how we could successfully manage protests in Nigeria. This is still Signature Morning on Signature TV. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back.